I will start. My name is Agustin Falco. Welcome to the annual Clean Government Reporting Tool CGRT Refresher. This year, and given that there are no substantial changes from last year, we will do a summarized version of previous webinars. We don't have much time. We have 30 minutes. As housekeeping questions, please remember that this webinar is being recorded and will be available together with the PowerPoint slides. Turn off your cameras and turn off your mics. At the end, we will have a Q&A section. And if you have any questions, specific questions about the examples that I will make about data entry, you will be able to have them after slide 10 and 14. If you feel that, we are moving forward too quickly, we will have this webinar available, the recording and the slides. We will start with basic concepts about CGRT, how to enter consumption data into CGRT. There's two ways of doing that, manual entry and bulk load, and how to edit sites. We will, at the end, summarize all the most important best practices and the different resources available, and we will open a final Q&A section. The main activities or functionalities in CGRT are the ones in this slide, and today there will be two presentations specifically for CGRT. In this first presentation, we will deal with a report, how to report consumption data for 2023 in CGRT. And there's another presentation afterwards about analytics, where we will check how to calculate your and get your CCAR report and other types of analytics that might help in knowing where are you in your path towards the reduction goals for 2030 and 2050. Let's start with basic but very important CGRT terminology. There's three roles in CGRT as users that you can have. One is site administrator or SA, and the site administrator has the main task to edit sites, your assets within CGRT, and organize the structure of your organization in CGRT. Another role is the data collector role. The data collector main task is enter consumption data. Some of you, all of you have either one or the other, probably, and some of you might have both of them. In some cases, the site administrator can request a specific addition of capabilities to the role that is called SA conflict temporary access that enhances the site administrator access to edit, in this case, to create and delete sites. Users must request this specific type of access and for a limited time, because it has the risk that you can delete key information and data that cannot be recovered afterwards. In this diagram, we can see a little bit better how the site administrator can edit sites and can also add questionnaires. That's part of the editing sites. Yeah, you can add questionnaires. We will check about this terminology afterwards, sites and questionnaires. The data collector enters data and validates the data. Once the data is validated, then it's the site administrator who can release. We will talk a little bit more in detail about the releasing of data. Releasing data is an option. It's not needed. We have received many questions. Do I have to release it? It's an option. It blocks the data. So once it's entered and has been validated, the data collector cannot change that data by mistake. Another part of the terminology is how CGRT organizes your assets and your organization in the system. For that, we need to know that there's sites. Within your root organization, the name of your organization, you will have different sites. The sites represent an organization's assets, such as buildings or fleet or procurement for paper. The site administrator is the one that edits those sites. Inside of each site, and we can see here a kind of a level of hierarchy, inside of the site, the site administrator can add questionnaires. The questionnaires are templates for loading and collecting data. And each questionnaire has several positions inside of it. In the positions, the positions are the location where the data is entered and stored. And we can store more things apart from data. We can store the quality of the data. We can store the transaction if there's an invoice transaction associated to that. And finally, we have the tags. Tags is a tag that we add to sites. These tags are good for filtering data, for filtering sites, also for reporting. So it can set if a site is offset exempt or offset required, if a site is synchronized with Portfolio Manager, if it uses estimate values instead of measure, and it's the site administrator who assigns the tags to the sites. We can see here a screenshot of CGRT and the different parts of the structure that I mentioned before in the previous slide. We can see how in order to enter data or into a site or a position, we will have to go to data acquisition in CGRT, login in CGRT, and in the left menu, we go to data entry, data acquisition. We will select the proper year. That's an important part. Be sure that you are selecting 2023 or 2022, depends on what you want. Then click on the site first. When you click in the questionnaire, this window here will open on the right side of your screen, and scroll until you find the position that you need. Once you find that position, in the column value, you can enter the data. You can also select the units. And if you need to enter different values, like imagine that you have an invoice and you have one for 1,000 megajoules and another one for 2,000, if you click in these three dots, you can open an additional pop-up window where you can enter different transactions. So you can keep record of the different transactions. Once the data is entered, remember to save the data. This is the same window, the same screenshot as before. And as I mentioned, remember to save the data. And once you save the data, you will see in the questionnaire, by the questionnaire, you will see the process bar. This process bar is a little bit complicated to understand because it shows how many slots in the whole questionnaire are completed in orange. So imagine that this questionnaire has 200 slots and you just put 10 slots with data, then it will show a little bit of orange. And then it will show in green the number of the percentage of all the slots that are released. And this is the release is at the very right of each of the spaces to enter data. And you can also change the data quality. So this is the process for entering data manually. and as you can see, it's relatively easy. I will try to run an example right now. We are pretty limited in time, but the data acquisition, you can find how to enter the data by trying to find the fields within a position. And now I will go a little bit with troubleshooting. So hopefully you can see my screen now. I'm in CGRT and I'm going to log in CGRT. Once I enter, I close this window and I can go. I mentioned before that we have in the dashboard the tab welcome and then resources PSO. If we go to resources PSO, you can see all the deadlines, detail, and all the different documents that you might need to access. But now let's go to the data acquisition. We go to data entry, data acquisition. And here we select the correct year that we need. In this case, we're going to select 2023. We can go, in this case, I created these sites for the test. We have a building test. And in this case, what I see is like, I want to enter electricity, but I don't see electricity. And curiously, this is a kind of a troubleshooting. We go to 2022 and I see the electricity for the building, but not in 2023. This is a task for the site administrator because it didn't assign the questionnaire to this site for this year. So the site administrator will have to go to set up sites, go to building test, that is the site that doesn't have the questionnaire. And here in the tab questionnaires, we can see that, oh, the questionnaire building electricity BC grid has been assigned, but not for the year 2023, neither for the 2024. It is assigned for the 2022. So the site administrator will have to click in assign user, select the questionnaire, click the years that haven't been assigned to that questionnaire, the person that has to enter the data, clicking next, and assign that user to all the positions and questionnaires in that has been selected. So once we do that and save, we can see that now we have, like the others, instead of having 2 red lines here, now we have the 3 green bars. If we go to data entry, data acquisition, before in the year 2023, we didn't have access to electricity, entering electricity in that building. And now in 2023, we have the questionnaire. And we select the questionnaire, and now we can enter data. This is a big questionnaire. I will enter values randomly a little bit. And we save the data. You will see that the process bar will have a little bit of orange. And if we release, in this case, I can do it because I also have the site administrator capacity. If we release, that bar will turn green. So I think that with this, we go a little bit over the basics on data entry manually. If there's any question right now and someone wants to open mic and go into the manual data entry before I jump into the bulk load data entry, that would be helpful. Any questions?
Thank you, Augustine. There was an individual that had their hand raised on that last demonstration, and I'll just invite them to turn on their microphone and ask the question and their camera if they're comfortable.
Yeah, so I raised the hand. Actually, my question is, in the questionnaire for a particular site setup, if I do not see the addition sign, a symbol, plus symbol over there, so I cannot add, right?
So in setup site, you want to add questionnaires, or that's for the site administrator. So if you don't see the values, just contact us. We will check what type of access do you have. And you might not have access. You might be the data collector and might not be able to edit the site.
Okay, sure. Okay, thank you.
Okay. If there's no more questions, there will be a space for questions at the end. We are not really bad in time, so I can run. This will take a little bit more time, is the bulk load. So if there's no more questions, I will move into this. For bulk load, this is a useful tool when we have a lot of data and we can record that data in an Excel along the year and finally do a bulk load of all the data. In order to do that, the first thing we have to go is into the dashboard, and in the welcome tab, the welcome section, in the tools tab, you can see a link to the CGR bulk load template generator. I have already downloaded and it looks like this. Normally it comes like this and you don't see the instructions. And I don't know why it is like that, but if you go to, and you can see the instructions, you will go to the instructions, but remember that there's one extra tab here on the left that you have to use at the very end. Following the instructions, you will be able to load the data on bulk load. I have downloaded this tool, and I will go a little bit faster than just reading the instructions. So what we have to do, once we have that, is we have to go to CGRT and we have to run a specific analytic. We go to Analytics, Intelligence Center, and in the search box, we can just write organ from organization. We click this X, so we are sure that we are not filtering anything else. And if we search for organ from organization, we have the organizational structure configuration report. That's what the Excel that I opened before, the bulk load tool, needs to know how your organization is structured. So right click on it, we go to open in generator view. And we have to select the year we want. In this case, we have to select the end of 2023, just in case we have new sites for 2023, or we have expired sites from other years. So if we select December 2023, and then about sites, we have to go into the blue bar that says site, and we will have a root organization on top. Click in the building that is in between the number and the name. That building, when we click in it, what it will do is pre-select all the different parts and structure and sites and assets that we have in an organization. In this one, it's pretty simple. We only have 2 sites within the organization. When that has been pre-selected, we click this button here in the middle that says Add Search Results to Selected Values. It adds them all, and then we click in OK. And with that, we can calculate. And this is what it shows. It shows all the sites that we have with all the questionnaires for each site. And we can export the report in this arrow pointing down, save to Excel. So this is the OSCAR, or organizational structure report of our organization. We can open it, just know where you save it. In this case, it will be in downloads. Once that's done, we can close the analytic. And following these instructions, this is the OSCAR report for this organization. We don't need it open. We can close it. Just know where is it. And following the instructions, what it says is that come into this tab and import the organizational structure configuration report. If we click in that button, it asks us, can I search for that OSCAR? And then if we go to downloads, here we have it. We select that one and open. Now, what it has done, it has adapted the tool to our organization. Say success, clicking OK. This is the list of sites. And now when we go to the tabs buildings or fleet, we have already our sites prepared. So there's only one building. If we go to the tab fleet, we can select the fleet. So if we select the fleet, it will automatically populate the site ID. If we go to position, it will automatically open all the positions that we have available based on our questionnaires. So if I want to enter gasoline standard, and then I enter the quantity, imagine that we have 100 liters, then I come into the units and I select liters. And this was in 2023. It was in, let's call it, yeah. And it automatically converts the term and the date in the term that we need. We don't need transaction reference, but it's up to you to be able to track down what you enter into CGRT. So these are the columns that the system needs together with the quantity to enter data in CGRT. There are 5 columns. And with this tool, we can have them ready just by following the instructions. In the case of buildings, we have an extra thing. When we enter the building and we enter electricity, maybe in this case, let's go for DC Hydro, 10,000 kilowatts hour. And the invoice won't be a natural month. It will be, maybe we'll cover different 2 months or month and a half. So in that case, when we enter the start date and the reading end date, once we have them all, when we have all the values entered into this Excel, we can press here in calendarize. And this will make the calculations, automatic calculations, to have all the invoices divided by natural months. And that will create the Excel that we need for CGRT to populate the data. In this case, I'm going to delete. This is a complex thing that has to, as I don't have an invoice, I cannot do it now. And once we have this, we can, the data enter into the system, we can go to setup and save and click in save load files. All this is explaining the instructions. So please follow the instructions to the letter and it will help. So when we do this, it will create as many files as we need. Sorry, downloads. As we need to, yeah, it will create files as we need to upload into CGRT. So in this case, probably has created only one file because we only have data in fleet. So if we had data for paper, fleet, and buildings, it will create 3 different files, one for each type. And now we go to CGRT, to data entry, and instead of data acquisition, we go to file importer. And here's when we can select the files that we have to do it one by one. We can select the files that the tool just generated. It's fleet in this case. So with this file generated, we can click in upload. Because it's a file that has been generated by the system, probably it goes perfectly well. We can go to available mappings and recognize this type of tool, calendarize or low template tool. And here's a question that many people ask, many of you have asked, and it's the append transactions. Append transactions, we can click or unclick it. It will, in this window, it will come with the option that you previously selected. So be careful, be mindful about this. And if we don't select append transactions, what happens is that for that position, for that month and that site, the tool, the upload tool, will override whatever is there. So if it was the month of January 2023 for diesel, or I think it was gasoline for heavy duty truck, it will be overridden. If we already had something and what we want is to add this additional measure, we have to click append transactions. And instead of overriding it, it will open those 3 dots that we saw before and will add this value. So in my case, I'm going to just read now. I will not append transaction. I read the file. Yeah, we might need extra time. We can stay a little bit longer, 10 minutes longer. So we can stay until 10:15 in this group if for the questions afterwards. So I will see that we have 5 minutes left. I will try to finish this and open questions after 10. In any case, I'm going to continue with this process. So upload the file import. What do we have to do here? The system, because we already applied the template just over the section of append transactions, it has already recognized the columns that we need. That is the site ID matches with what we have in our Excel, the position ID, the unit ID, and the term, and quantity with quantity. So we see that except for those 5, the other ones are still with target, and the transaction reference, because it has created 6 columns. The file that we generated has created 6 columns, and those 6 columns have been recognized by the system. Before importing, do not import yet. Please first test. When we test, it does a pre-reading of the file that we want to upload. And it says that has found one property that it makes sense for fleet, that property with one position, and the one position matches, is in green, 1/1, and one unit that it recognizes too. So it sounds perfect. So if now we click import, we see in the job tray here down, that there's a job working. We can refresh, it's importing data, and we see the green bar. That means that has been imported. We click in the bar, and we see that has imported one row of data. That is what we had, and has found 0 errors. That sounds pretty good, and actually probably work. If we go to data acquisition right now, and we go to that site that was fleet for 2023, it was in standard fields, and actually was empty before, and now it's, yeah. So, and it was for January, and I think it was gasoline, and here we have, yeah, this one is the one that had.
Wondering if the issues in regards to the data gaps in natural gas consumption between Fortis data uploaded into Portfolio Manager has been addressed.
Sadly, unfortunately, no. We continue in contact with Fortis BC. Soon we will have a third party to support you all, public sector organizations in trying to identify the data gaps and data overlaps in the ESPM and contact directly with Fortis BC. This contractor has experience in that, and not only that, but they are leading an initiative with City of Vancouver and other organizations to put a little bit of pressure in the utilities company to solve those issues. So improving the accuracy of the data in ESPM, but it's something that still doesn't have a solution.
And is there a possible specific session planned or recorded for onboarding into ESPM integration with CGRT, which I believe we have?
Yeah, we don't have any session planned for that, but please send that to us on carbon.neutral@gov.bc.ca, because it's a pretty good idea. The problem that we have is that we don't have properties in ESPM. So for us to do run an example, is impossible. We cannot edit things. We cannot change data. We normally have excuse me, access as data readers only. But probably we can, with that third party that they have accounts and they know how to do that, we could generate one. Thanks for the question. Well, if there's no more questions, I would like to continue with this because we are, yeah, it's 10. So the next, after running this bulk load example, the next part is for site administrators and how to edit sites. As we saw before, site administrators can come into CGRT, can enter into CGRT and log in. I'm going to set up sites, and then they first have to select the site. Then the second step is select if they want to edit the information of the site or the questionnaires assigned to the site, and click in edit. That's pretty straightforward. This is pretty simple, but I will open space for questions later. Now I wanted to go through the best practices. Always be mindful and select the collection period where you want to enter data. Especially this is an issue when completing the self-certification checklist. As a lot of people will, we are in 2024, and by default it might appear 2024 as the year to complete that self-certification checklist. Be sure that you are completing the self-certification checklist and any other questionnaire for 2023. Do not delete sites or questionnaires. They keep historic data, and once deleted, we cannot recover. It doesn't go to a recovery bin or something like that. It just disappears. You can see under your root organization a prior year adjustment snapshot questionnaire. Please do not modify or edit that questionnaire. That's internal for that data broker to populate data and keep a snapshot of the data that you entered last year or prior years. Release data is optional. Site administrators can do that. They check the data and they can release to avoid changes. And please always remember to save. There's a little window that opens on top of your screen that says, do you want to move forward without saving? But just in case, be mindful and click save when you have entered data or change something. Even if you change the quality of the data or you release, you will have to save afterwards. And you can always find resources in the main site, the main CGRT window at the dashboard. be sure that you are in the section of welcome. And once in the section of welcome, you can go and select resources PSO that has some videos and the dates or tools, or the file section that is on the very right. Another resource, as I mentioned right now, is the file section on the very right, where you can see the CGRT user guide. It's a pretty dense document with more than 50 pages, I think, but it has a lot of super useful information. Yeah, and as I mentioned before, the resources PSO tab has videos in it, and you can find it by going to dashboard, welcome, and in resources PSO. Right now we have 4 videos, and the idea is uploading another one with analytics. And as I mentioned before, please send us questions, because we are considering making another webinar for mid-February or the end of February, just answering the questions that you send to us anonymously if you want. But we will be able to go question by question. So all the PSOs that want to attend to, all the users that want to attend to that webinar will have access to those questions and information that could really increase the use and the outcomes that you get from CGRT. And with that, yeah, we are going to wait until the next part of the webinar. Thank you very much for attending. And if you have any questions right now, yeah, there's still time. Yeah, we still have about 10 minutes to answer questions, if there's any more.
Thank you, Augustine. There are a few questions. We'll just double back, and then anybody who feel free to continue to send them. We'll get back to you individually if we can't do it in the webinar. Just to one seeking clarification, asking that we can use ESPPM to upload into CGRT.
Yes, ESPM is a really good tool to upload in CGRT. It requires a process that in the files in the CGRT user guide that I mentioned before, from page 45 till the end of the document, you have the process on how to synchronize your organizations with your organization with ESPM. We highly recommend to follow those instructions, because you can create your own account in ESPM from CGRT. If you create your own account in ESPM before, and then you want to synchronize, it becomes a little bit more complicated, while CGRT can do all the process for you if you follow those instructions in CGRT.
If a site has been added first into ESPM, but then we are seeking, or sorry, if we select the sharing selection, can it then be added synced into CGRT, or is it done the other way around? Could you clarify the order?
CGRT can create sites in ESPM. ESPM cannot create sites in CGRT. The data will flow once both sites are created in both software, and they are synchronized. Synchronized means that their IDs are the same in both. It needs 3 different numbers: account ID, property ID, and point of delivery, or meter ID, depends. With those 3 numbers, the data can flow. But yeah, CGRT can create sites in ESPM, but ESPM cannot create sites in CGRT.
Right. Just a piece of feedback from Beverly. Thanks, great feedback, that the short instructional videos are very helpful. More of those, please. If anyone has suggestions, requests on what specifically they would like to see those short instructional videos focusing on, we would love to get those recommendations so that we can make the most worthwhile to yourselves and help